Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our next Fest RMIT Open Day live industry Q&A panel session. My name is Jasmine Tavita, and I'm the Senior Advisor of Student Recruitment and Development here at RMIT. I'm excited to be hosting today's panel discussion about careers of the future with some of our leading industry experts. At RMIT, we pride ourselves on preparing our students for life and work. One of the ways we do this is by partnering with organisations on projects, offering internships to our students and undertaking other activities with industry. We know that these experiences provide invaluable opportunities for students to expand their knowledge, learn new professional skills, and really put theory into practice. Our industry partners this evening are affiliated with RMIT's Activator program, and we will hear more about RMIT Activator later in today's session. Before we kick off today's discussion, I'd like to acknowledge the people of the Woiwurrung and Boonwurrung language groups of the Eastern Kulin Nations, on whose unceded lands we conduct the business of the university. RMIT respectfully acknowledges their ancestors and elders, past, present, and emerging. And while we conduct our work remotely, I want to pay my respect to the wider unceded lands of this nation. Just before we get started, I wanted to remind our attendees that we will have time at the end of our panel discussion to go over questions from the audience. You can submit questions throughout today's session in the Q&A tool on your right-hand side at any time. And we'll do our best to answer as many as possible, either directly or to our panelists. This webinar is also being recorded and it will be available to view on our Open Day platform after the event. So what I would like to do first to kick off today's session is introduce our members of the panel. Today we have 4 very special guests with us. And first up, I'd like to introduce Bertram Dua. Bertram is the Commercial and Product Director at Appearition. So hello, Bertram.
Hello.
We've also got today joining us is Darren Valou. Darren is the Head of Innovation for Australia and New Zealand for Capgemini. So welcome, Darren.
Hello.
And last but certainly not least, we have Darren Sutton. Darren is the Managing Director at the Common Purpose Collective. So great to have you with us, Darren.
Great to be here, Jasmine.
So thank you all so much for being with us this evening. As you all know, here at RMIT, we're incredibly passionate about our industry partners. So we're very lucky to have you. I'd also like to introduce Eugenia Wan. Eugenia is our Community and Startup Coordinator from RMIT Activator. And later, after our panel discussion, she will be giving us a glimpse of the work that RMIT Activator does to support entrepreneurial ventures and innovations. So thank you, everyone, and welcome. We've got our experts from a range of different industry tonight ready for your questions. So please feel free to ask anything you wish in the chat, and we will do our best to get through them all. So thank you for joining us and sharing your valuable insights tonight. What we'd like to do first is dive into a series of questions for you all and get your personal insights as well as insights from your industry. So to kick us off, I'd like to know a little bit more about each of your roles. What made you kickstart your career in your particular industry? So we'll start with Darren.
Thank you. Always good to go first, and real pleasure to be here with RMIT University, Jasmine. So I'm Darren Sutton, Melbourne-based, and I'm the founder of the Common Purpose Collective. The Common Purpose Collective is one of Australia's first social innovation and design practices. Our job is to help clients, corporates, large and small, to design, develop and deploy products, services or experiences that not only drive financial value, but also create what we call environmental and social impact, which is really important as we move forward into a more resilient and sustainable economy. In the business, we can focus on entrepreneurship and human-centered design, as well as growth marketing. And it's been a real journey. We've been live for about 5 years now, and I'm looking forward to telling you about some of the skills, tools, and mindsets that we use in the business and some of the people we work with.
Thanks, Darren. It's great insight, and it's a great organisation. So thank you very much for joining us. I'd like to pass next to Bertram. So Bertram, we'd love to know what made you kickstart your career in this industry and a little bit about your role and company.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe I start with the second half of the question first. So I'm the product director and commercial director. So I work very closely with the CEO and kind of think about how all the opportunities and ideas and stuff that that developers and engineers conceive and that customers want, how we can merge that into products in a strategic way that they then can be commercialized. So it's much of a given that it's all around immersive technologies, augmented reality, virtual reality, etc., but also around making that happen, of course, in a useful way to customers, to industry, commercial applications. So it's not so much for gaming, but it's more for actual business solutions. And the way that I in many ways, I haven't always been in technology. I've started off being an environmental engineer, and also even had a short career as a musician and a bicycle mechanic. But then quite quickly I found a strong passion for environment and sustainability. So in that way, Darren, I'm very happy to hear about your work too. And I've been for a long time, I did an MBA and I've been sort of becoming more and more entrepreneurial in the sustainability field first. And eventually I just decided that it would be interesting to change career and go into a totally different industry and apply my knowledge on the commercial and the human side to another industry, which I think is exciting. And yeah, and then it was really through some friends and connections that I had. I mean, on the one hand, Vivek, the founder of Appearition, I've known him from before, and another friend of mine from Germany, he's already been in the tech industry. So I started working with them on projects, and then sort of managed to maneuver myself into that industry.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing, and what an interesting career journey. And I guess it's great because it got you where you are today. So thank you so much for joining us. And Darren, we'd love to hear from you as well.
Sure, thank you. And hello, everyone, again. So my name is Darren Velu, and I head up innovations at Capgemini. For those of you who don't know who Capgemini are, we're a global technology services and consulting company. We're over 250,000 people globally. We operate across 40 countries. And my role is to help organizations, our clients, typically large enterprises and large organizations, identify and apply and create new products and new innovations and new services. I have a background in technology, particularly artificial intelligence. I work across pretty much all sectors. That's the nature of our role, and we serve all industries. So finance to banking, telecom, retail, transport, health, government, name it. I've had a few pivots in my career as well, just like yourself, Bertram, there. I started as a software programmer. I grew up in a city in India called Bangalore that went on to become the Silicon Valley of India, if I may put it that way. So it was hard it was just impossible to miss what that industry was bringing in terms of economic growth and prospects. So I was heavily influenced by that during my university days. I spent most of my university days attending conferences and events run by some of the biggest software companies in the world at that time, the IBMs, the Microsofts. I went on to specialize in AI. And back then, AI was very experimental. So I did come out of my university specializing in a subject that I could never possibly use. I started, I then went on to become a software programmer, and then did a lot of IT consulting across the various industries. And about 10 years into my career, artificial intelligence had a resurface. It came back into mainstream again. It was no longer a product or a technology in the labs. It was now mainstream, and we were deploying this across large enterprises, like in banking and finance and things like that. So I reskilled myself very quickly, brushed up some of my old knowledge, and got back into the AI area of work. And I I was an AI specialist for a few years. And one of the things that I got into getting back into AI was creating new products and new services. So creating the new was fascinating to me. And AI just intrinsically brings that power to create the new, which sort of then led to my current role of heading innovations, which is basically, still underpinned by artificial intelligence and data. And we'll talk about it a little bit later. But then I also go a little more broader with perhaps blockchain or IoT or perhaps even quantum computing and stuff like that in the future. So that's sort of my journey into my current role.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I think it gives everyone great context to just how wide a variety everyone's experience really is to get them where they are today, and that it's not always a straight path. And I think that really resonates well with our prospective students, but also with RMIT and I guess why you're with us today. So thank you. And my next question is, what excites you about your industry's future growth? So, Darren, we'll go with you. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things. So my industry, if I may say, is digital information technology or digital technology. And digital technologies are sort of transforming the world, as we all know. So digital technology as an industry is more rapidly evolving than any other innovation in history, if you come to think of it. And it's across all sectors again. So whether it's in the health sector, AI-enabled technologies helping diagnose diseases to extending life expectancy, or in the education area, whether it's virtual learning technologies or distance learning technologies, making connecting and engaging students who otherwise may have been excluded. So digital technologies enable things like that, and even public services and government. You would have seen with the COVID situation, a lot of new digital tech has been rapidly adopted. We had no choice. We had to rapidly adopt these technologies. And there are some more broader things around, these public services, organizations becoming more accessible and accountable with tech like blockchain and things like that. So COVID has definitely accelerated our industry. Like we are on hyper growth, and the new ways of working, remote ways of working, some of that will come back to normal, but a lot of it wouldn't. It wouldn't reverse. It's here to stay. And as we know, it's all powered by digital systems and digital technologies and digital services. So there's so much. And when I talk about all of this, of course, we have to start thinking about technology workers are key to enabling this extra demand for digital infrastructure to build these services and stuff.
Thank you for that. And so, Darren, we'll go to you next. What excites you about future growth in your industry?
Yeah, thank you. And it's just great listening to Darren as well, and also the breadth and depth of the other panelists. So for me, there are a few things here. First of all, there are some really big drivers shaping the world around us. Climate change, migration, growing emphasis on well-being, future of work, and also the new technologies that have just been addressed. I think in terms of the work that I do, we cut across a lot of different sectors. So I'll try and focus on probably 5 core areas: people, partnerships, processes, platforms, and purpose. So for me, what excites me? People. How can we use technology to enable better relationships between people? What are the skills that we need to use to put people at the heart of it? Secondly, platforms. We're looking around the world and we're seeing greater and greater connectivity. And technology is driving forward the way that different, more siloed businesses, people, departments used to live in separate worlds now come together. And there's a great, great opportunity to understand, because when you understand, you know what to do next. The third thing there is partnership. What we're looking at now, and what really excites me, is that people are coming around the table from different sectors, and they're able to say, I'm really good at this in my space. You're really good at that in your space. So now with this new technology, we can come together and actually tackle some of these more complex problems. And I think in doing so, we have a greater chance of success, or a greater ability to move better. And then that leads on to the point around process, which is all about now we need new ways to work together, collaborate, new tools like Miro, and then the technology that Darren again alluded to around AI, how it creates and deepens relationships. But then finally, and this is the bit that we built an entire business around, is purpose. You know, what sets us apart is intention. Why are we doing the things that we do, and how can we unlock and leverage all these opportunities in the things that we've spoken about? So, you know, for me, I always operate in those very simple things around 5 Ps or 4 Is. But I started with people. It always ends with people. And we have to think about not only the skills that we develop in the disciplines that we have, which are really hard skills, but also some of the softer skills that allow us to connect better with our teammates, our workmates, and people across the table.
That's a brilliant response, Darren. Thank you so much. And I guess coming from a marketing background, I always think of the marketing 4 Ps or the marketing 7 Ps, but I like your Ps better. So, you know, I think it's something we can all take away. And I think definitely focusing on purpose is a really good call out. So thank you so much for sharing. Bertrand, we'd love to know what excites you about your industry and the growth. Sorry.
It's funny, like I've taken a couple of notes, and pretty much almost everything that I took down has already been said very in very good ways, you know, by Darren and Darren. So absolutely support all of that, what you're saying. And the only thing that I can probably add to that is by joining, and that was actually my purpose as well, because purpose, of course, is super important. By joining this industry, I feel I'm entering an industry that I'm still able to shift and shape in the right direction, to make it human-centered, to make it sustainable, etc. So, and on top of that, it was already said in some ways as well, but the fact that in our way, visualization and the whole connectivity is, of course, a beautiful way of bringing all sorts of people together as well. So if you actually look at the team that I'm working with, or the teams that we've got in the company and extending outside of the company, I mean, it's across countries, across borders, across cultures. It's extremely diverse environment, and even though it's all technology powered, sometimes you're directly together, but oftentimes you're not. But people sort of have adopted these technologies and are able to really make connections. So that's definitely a very nice thing.
Definitely. Thank you. And well said. So in our audience today, we have various students that are going to go through their studies, and they're going to, you know, go through their studies with the university and then look to join the industries that we're all currently working in at the moment. So what I would love to hear from you all is, so the future for them is obviously a lot closer than they think. So what I would love to ask you is, what are the career and employability opportunities within your industry in the next 5 years? So Bertrand, I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts.
Yeah, and I'm sure that I'm probably this time going to be preempting the same kind of trends that we'll be hearing again, but who knows? Let's see. Specifically in the visualization and immersive technology space, I guess a lot of it is around content. So people who are creative and like, and maybe also have good spatial awareness, they are, you know, the 3D editors, creators, whether it's moving things or still things, interactive. So all of this stuff, certainly there's a big demand, and it'll grow over time more and more. Then in order to make that applicable and set the context right, of course, you have to have the communication, marketing, community engagement to make these things fit into the right context. Then the obvious things are probably the IT developer, analytics, etc. skills. So data analytics through to artificial intelligence and the likes. So if you're more scientific, that it strikes your interest, that'll definitely come with a big recommendation. And then the last thing, I think, I mean, not to forget that there is a couple of evergreens which probably will never die, which have existed already hundreds of years ago, which would be simple management and leadership, finance, accounting. So all of these things are going to have demand.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that. And it's interesting to know that, if we look back 10 years ago, augmented reality, virtual reality weren't necessarily household careers or well-known names unless you were in a niche area that was kind of really aware of technology and what was up and coming. So it's great to kind of know that that is more of a kind of a household name, but something really aspirational for a lot of our students. And I think it'll be across multiple industries like you've all highlighted in such different ways. So thank you for sharing. We'll go to you, Darren. So Darren would like to know about career and employability opportunities in the next 5 years.
Okay. I think there's a lot of conversation out there at the moment around this. And one of the things I feel is incredibly important is this concept of range, that individuals have the ability to look across and experience as many different areas of a business before diving down into the area that they want to deepen in. I feel that obviously the technology and the analytical skills and the critical thinking play a key part. I think creativity and the ability to move in the unknown plays a really key part. Softer skills around flexibility and adaptability. But then there's also, I think, the ability to collaborate creatively, which is to work with people around a shared outcome. I think that what we're seeing in industry at the moment is that 50% of employees across the board are having to reskill, but they're reskilling in a number of different ways. And the communication, the creativity, the critical thinking plays out consistently in that retraining program. So if we were to think about individuals and the future, we don't know what the jobs will be, because 5 years ago we couldn't predict what a bio experience designer was, or a data analyst, data scientist in the way in which it is now. So therein lies the opportunity, is not necessarily to plan for things, but to be able to respond to things. And if you have range and you have the ability to not just have multidisciplinary, but transdisciplinary skill sets, whereby you can move across different areas confidently and then go deep in the area that's important to you, then I think you're really equipping yourself to move forward well. But again, it goes back to that range of experience and being able to respond in the moment to things better.
Thank you so much. Very well said. We'll go to you, Darren.
Yeah, sure. I think there were some fantastic points made there, Bertram, yourself, and Darren. I was taking some notes. Just to build it further on those things, particularly those macro forces or macro trends that sort of shaping new careers and new jobs. Some of these things can create completely new careers, job titles that we haven't seen yet, particularly the sustainability and the ESG and the social area. So we've been developing software systems and digital systems for a long time. And the only thing we considered was, is it a profitable system that we are building? For the first time now, we're stopping and asking ourselves, is it also going to be responsible? What kind of an impact is that system or that solution going to have on the planet and people? So things like that. I've had 2 sessions this morning with my clients talking about green technology, everything to do with green tech. So we are now questioning, where's my data center running? How green is it? What's the carbon footprint? Can you give me a day? So these questions are popping up, and they will create new careers. So it's a really good thing to keep a tab on and to watch how they pan out. The other thing, Bertram, I think you captured that, is we don't design systems like how we used to design 15 years ago and 20 years ago. If anyone saw a Windows NT system or a Windows, they were pathetic as an experience. We never considered anything experiential ever. We said the functionality was the main thing. Does the system function and do the job it's supposed to do? But now there's a massive demand from users, from our clients, from everyone, that it must give me a good experience as well, whether it's augmented reality, whether it's voice, or some kind of an immersive thing. So there's a whole raft of new jobs and other things that's sort of coming out there. And I won't expand on the partnerships and ecosystem. That's so spot on, Bertram. And I used to work with IBM many years ago, and IBM built a software, and that's all it is. It was IBM software, and everything was IBM run. But now we don't work like that. IBM sits side by side with Google sits side by side with Microsoft, and then there's all the other players as well, like a Salesforce or an SAP. So all of them now work in an ecosystem, and that's the new landscape. Technology, I think my colleagues here, my panelists, fellow panelists covered it really well. Artificial intelligence is going to be mainstream. It is going to go deeper and wider. Everything that we're going to ever develop from here on is going to have some form of intelligence embedded, whether we like it or not. And these systems will change and adapt and do different things based on whatever they're designed to do. So it's very essential to understand how systems learn and think. It's a very important topic, and there's lots of skills and topics around it. And one other thing that we need to another technology that's sort of poised to make a big impact and do some massive disruptions across a lot of areas is blockchain. I mentioned that in my previously as well. We can run entire organizations decentralized without any. So they'll have a massive impact into the future. I'll go and jump into employability. I made a note, Jazz, and I'm not forgetting that. So employability and career opportunities, I'm going to wear my Capgemini hat now. And for us, obviously, it's big tech, anything to do with the big techs. When we say big tech, it's the tech giants, the Googles, the Amazons, the Microsoft. These companies have built the foundational layer upon which everything is pretty much developed. So you have to know them. You have to know the fundamentals of these layers. And then for us, not to forget, there are some core IT services, which are a large number of teams are made up of these core services. So it is testing applications we build, supporting these applications. That's going to happen. That will continue to happen. So that's not to forget that. And then there's a new area of digital engineering that's sort of creeping up and coming up into mainstream. Engineering firms were very disconnected from the digital world, and now that's sort of coming together. So we're creating what we call digital twins of engineering systems, of machinery, of anything, of airplanes, of ships, entire city. We can create an entire digital twin of an entire city, and then do whatever simulation and other learnings and experiments in the twin world. So those are new areas. And one thing is applying innovation, which is my area of work. Applying innovation is more important. It's becoming more and more important than innovation itself, because innovation is just happening. The sources of innovation is limitless now. It's coming from all aspects. But to apply that to solve a problem is a unique skill set, and there's a massive demand for applying innovation.
That's a really good call out there, because it's interesting to know how that applies across multiple different industries of being able to innovate, but specifically how we implement an innovation and continue to grow off that innovation. So very good call out, and thank you so much for sharing. I have a question for you all, and this one is around the kind of skill sets which you've touched on there, Darren. So that's what type of skill sets and qualifications do you see yourselves as looking for from graduates? I know we've asked you that around the careers that they're coming from, but I guess what we're really looking at here is if a student or a prospective student that's joining us tonight was applying for your company tomorrow, what skills would you be looking for, or what qualifications would you want them to have? We'll go to you, Darren, first. I will follow on from your train of thought from innovation.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the hard skills, I think Bertram mentioned it, Darren mentioned it as well. We'll look for basic programming thinking. That's the area of our work. Basic understanding of things like cloud and data. We don't expect deep understanding of any of these technologies, but just a basic understanding. When I say data, it's more the predictability aspects of data. What can you do with, how can you model this data, and what can you extract out of this data, kind of a thinking. Machine learning, I mentioned, it's becoming more and more almost a default requirement just to understand how machines learn. And then we're sort of recruiting a lot of domain experts, as we call them. So you could be, because as we build intelligent systems, we need domain experts to train these systems. So when I say a domain expert, you're an expert in law and regulations or compliance. We need these skills to train these systems so that they in turn augment their work. So it's a very new area, and it's a very new space for us as well as a digital technology company, but we look for a lot of domain expertise. Like I wouldn't walk into office and find a fully qualified lawyer working next to me. Not in the technology department, but we see a lot of those. And then some of the things that Darren sort of touched on, that entrepreneurship, that innovation mindset, that innovation thinking is so much more important now. And of course, human-centered design. To Bertram's point, we don't necessarily would look for someone with human-centered design qualification or certification, but we want them to think, empathize with how a potential user of this application would think and behave, and that kind of those kind of skills are also
Thank you so much. I will pass over to Bertram. I saw you nodding away, so I think there's probably a fair few things there that you will agree with.
Yeah, I mean, of course, again, I really agree on everything. I've luckily this time taken it from a little bit of a different angle, so I might be complimenting or saying some things that of course are obvious, but still they may not always be that obvious. For me, it's the type of skill sets are actually, we really would look at team players. So, like that means you have a kind of collaborative personality and at least good enough communication and the willingness to communicate, but also open for feedback. Like you're not the type of person who needs to get everything their way, but is open and not upset if they get shown alternatives. And a large degree of dedication to the common goals, so to the team goals, to the company goals, and to the wider values. I think is very important, not to be sort of an isolated, fighter. So I think it's come across in various comments before that we're more connected, but it's a strength. We need to play to that strength. Now, I also, like a bit of a giver mentality needs to be there. That makes it easier to be part of a team. So not grab as much as you can, and not only go quid for quo, but just give back to the community and build up the whole community. Of course, there's a bit of a motivation thing. So the more you're self-started and able to drive things on your own, I think that has to do with seeing the bigger picture and seeing the values. Taking ownership and so on. But and the last thing that I have here is actually the ability and the willingness and the drive to connect with the wider network. So extend to the people and the networks outside of the organization in order to tap into the pool of knowledge and into the pool of ability to deliver things, to even find customers, like whichever. Like that's a famous networking, right? To get the job, but also once you're in the job, you still continue to network.
Yeah, it's a good call, and I think naturally people can tend to stick to what they know and who they know, and it does take a skill to make sure that you do put yourself out there and keep connecting outside of maybe your known and comfort. So really good call out there, Darren. Seeing if you've got anything else you'd also like to add.
Yeah, I'm sat here listening to it, and I'm enjoying it as much as a participant. Because honestly, there's some absolute pulls that I wish I had knowledge about when I was in my university. I'm going to echo a few sentiments here. I'm drawn towards the interested than the interesting, and by that I mean people who are curious and lean in and are constantly learning. And in that, I see always, people who have humility to not know everything and are looking to understand stuff. whether that's in people or processes, as I've said, or in ways of working. I'm looking for that curiosity constantly. I look for rapport a lot, because I think as we move forward, the ability to do it together, as Bertrand said, 1 + 1 = 4. There's strength in numbers, and doing it together is better. But you have to be a good person to work with. I don't mean a good person as in nice, but all collaborative, creatively collaborative. And also in that, there has to be a degree of friction as well, because you have to be confident enough and empathetic enough to be able to push back and to be able to communicate without it being too sensitive, or because at the end of the day, the quality of the output, you're measured by that in some way. So that's really important. There needs to be a very base level of tech understanding and know how you want to use it and an intention around it. I think Darren mentioned the Big Four and understanding a little bit about how they play, and from that system thinking about how you can interact with them as opportunities and adjacent markets start to become a little bit more of a driver. And then also I look for a kind of a hungry entrepreneurial mindset, people who are comfortable with a blank page. And again, there's values in the university, right, around courage, bravery, imagination, passion. These are things that actually sit at the heart of the entrepreneurship model. And RMIT Activator is the engine for entrepreneurialism around the university. But I look for it because what you have in that are people who are willing to step forward with others and to take a little bit of a leap into the unknown. And never more so ever has there been a time where we don't know what's coming next. So technology will enable us to respond well and fast, and to a degree predict, but we can't plan anymore as effectively. We can only use what we call strategic foresight. So that's an important thing. Again, it always comes back to people and making sure that we put good relationships at the heart of what we do.
Thank you so much, Darren, and I'm great that you mentioned RMIT Activator there as a great lead on to Eugenia, who will be coming up soon to talk about RMIT Activator. Before I pass over, I just want to ask you all one very last question, and this is thinking back to your younger years. If you were in Year 12 again, what advice would you give to your former self about those who are looking at, careers for their future? So if you were back being 18 years old, what advice would you give to your younger self for their career? I'll go to you, Bertram.
Yeah, sure. It's actually, it's funny how nice it is to be able to give this advice, because sometimes your own children sometimes want to listen to you, or sometimes they maybe don't. Sometimes you talk to people that don't want to listen, but when you have an audience that is interested, I think it's a beautiful thing. So having said that, it means that I encourage all of the young people to reach out to people like us, older, younger, with anything, like reach out for needing support and so on. But I guess the advice that I would really like to give, of course, the best thing that anybody can do is turn their dream into their career. I think while that, as long as you don't destroy your dream, that's probably the ideal. But even if you don't get there, just follow your passions as much as you can, and make sure that you associate yourself with uplifting people. That don't bring you down, and also lift other people up around you, of course, in the same token. And I think, so then while you contribute to the work of others, you'll notice that things become easier for yourself and move. You're starting to shape your environment the same that the environment shapes you. So you might as well be a positive force on it. And then I guess I don't have to say this to young people, but try and do unconventional ways. Like definitely whatever I suggest, you should probably think 3-4 steps further if you want to be the change maker, and really go beyond what we can recommend to you. That's
brilliant advice.
And I think the last thing, of course, stay always true to your core values.
Yeah, really good call out there, Bertram. Thank you. Darren, what would you tell your 17, 18-year-old self?
I think Bertram captured it so beautifully. But my advice would be, think about what you want to do, but hold it loosely. There are endless opportunities. Trust me, there's always endless opportunities that may interest you and you may not even be aware of. So take opportunities as they come, give them a try. There's always something different to do, and there'll be more for the future, for our future generations than we had. So there'll be more pivots, more new careers, more frequent changes in their careers. So embrace it as they come. It's going to be a fun ride.
Thank you so much. That's a great one. Yeah, I think we all looked back even a year ago, we wouldn't think we are where we are now. So yeah, our 17, 18-year-old up-and-comers, there's more to come from all of them, definitely. And Darren, what about yourself?
Yeah, I love that idea of holding it loosely and taking a bit of pressure off yourself. So I don't know if, I'll go back to the concept of range. That, it's like you're in a candy store or the donut store, try as many different things as you can, test it out, find something that feels right, use the skill that you have in that context, and maybe then go a little bit deeper on it and learn more. Just stay open to people, to cultures, to opportunities, and have that mindset of, what can I learn, but also what can I give in that process. We're in an age of benefit mindset, which is leaders who do well and be well. And it's really important to think about what you contribute back, but also the exchange in that process. Also, this is a business sometimes as well, so it's okay to be business focused and to have those harder metrics. So the two can coexist, and I'm working really hard to prove that continuously and grow a business where profit and purpose coexist. And I think that's the engine that can keep you going, but you still need some outcomes with it.
That's great. Yeah, thank you so much, Darren. All of you have provided such great insights. I really appreciate you sharing with us, and I kind of agree with all your sentiments around what advice you'd give to your younger selves. And one thing that I particularly like, and I like to make sure that people know that we kind of support, and why I guess I work with RMIT, is that passions can change. And I think being open to those passions and new experiences lead you to the places you never knew you would be from where you begun. So I think that's a great way of being able to talk about RMIT and what we do here, to make sure that prospective students are open to those opportunities, open to those experiences that they may pick up in a way that they wouldn't have imagined in the beginning. So I'd like to hand over to Eugenia from RMIT Activator to give us an overview of what her and her brilliant colleagues at RMIT do, and what our prospective students will have the opportunity to get involved with if they study with RMIT. So I will pass over to Eugenia.
Thanks a lot for having me here, Jasmine. I was very excited, I think, listening to the panel discussion, because a lot of things that has been mentioned, around teamwork, innovation, sustainability, social impact, all these words, I think, really resonates with what we do at RMIT Activator and our values. So I think I'm here and when Jasmine, you were talking about, being open to different possibilities. So we're here to sort of open the possibility to actually, for our students to become a bit of a hustler and, become a startup founder, and, or even just to get that, I think, innovation experience that they can take then into their career, that is super valuable. So what is RMIT Activator and what do we do? We can see, like in the slide coming up, so we're really the impact-driven innovation and entrepreneurship center of the university. And what's beautiful, I think, about Activator is our impact really spans across, I think, from inside RMIT to the wider community, and even to, I think, globally to the different campuses. So the programs and experiences that we have, so in the next slide, we can see that it's really centered around like three kind of pillars. So around discovery, around learning, and around doing. And we can see in the next slide coming up that we have like a whole range of, different programs and experiences that we offer that are centered around these three concepts. So from, open innovation challenges, hackathons, design sprints, these fun sort of discovery experiences to, more the learn and do type, where you can actually go intern at a startup, or, dive into the cybersecurity world, which is, another really hot topic, and that offers a lot of career opportunities. And there's also the Launcher Pre-Accelerator as well. So if you're actually getting into the startup world and thinking about founding like a startup yourself, we help you sort of accelerate the growth of your startup as well. So if we look at what's coming up next, or what's happening right now, so we'll see in the slide next, we'll have the What's Possible Entrepreneurship Month, which is happening at the moment, where we have a range of different experiences and different programs for future RMIT students, to participate in. So if we move to the next slide, we actually have a really exciting innovation challenge coming up. That's around, looking at, what's possible, for the future of creative spaces for our furry friends. So like, how do we incorporate, the pets, into the workspaces? And you can actually send the QR code on this slide to have a look at the event details and register if you would like to participate. So so that's pretty much, I think, a quick snapshot of what we do at RMIT Activator. If we go to the last slide, we're always out there, we're happy for you to reach out and get in touch with us, if you're looking at, innovation and entrepreneurship experiences that you would like to be a part of. Yeah, and thank you for having me here again, Jasmine.
Thank you so much, Eugenia, for walking us through RMIT Activator and giving students a bit of an insight into what they can experience here. I've got a couple of questions from the audience that we would love to ask our panelists. So I've got the first question here. Bertram, what value does a 3-year undergraduate degree provide in a dynamic and disrupted economic environment?
I guess I can refer back a little bit to what we all said before. I can totally get where that question is coming from, because you can hear a lot of information and still don't really feel totally comfortable. So, and I think the challenge is you need to cultivate and being okay with a little bit of discomfort. So yes, you're making a commitment by putting in a 3-year, course. 3-year, like, is this really taking you where you want to be in the end? My advice would be, don't be too hard on yourself. Actually, I'm sure it'll give you something. Either it'll give you the basics, it'll give you a lot of everything. I mean, it'll give you university undergrad degrees as much as any other education will, of course, give you a lot of teamwork, team ability, and then it'll give you networks. It'll, of course, give you some skills. My advice there would be you make it more and more valuable the earlier you start stretching your networks into the work environment or the non-for-profit or whatever it is that you want to that you're drawn towards. So try and make it a reality in something that means something to you, and there are unlimited ways of doing that.
Yeah,
I hope that kind of answered that question.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I think that all of you previously did also talk to the value and opportunities that kind of broadening your range can do. And I think that's something with a 3-year degree that each year I see it as that's 3 years of you in the market. That's 3 years of you broadening your learnings and your horizons. That's 3 years of opportunities that you wouldn't have had in that first year or you wouldn't have had in the third. So it's great to kind of consider it as a journey rather than just a step into the next. It's actually a journey, and you get out of it. I guess what you put in is something that I personally have learnt, and I've seen many others learn as well. So thank you so much for that. Eugenia, we've got a question. It says, how can students at RMIT get involved with RMIT Activator?
Thanks, Jasmine. Love that question. So I think, like I said before, there's really a whole range of different experiences and programs that students can participate in. I guess if you're sort of fresh, into the uni and you would like to sort of get a taste of what innovation and entrepreneurship is like, then we have a number of, hackathons and design challenges that's coming up that you can sort of participate, in a 1 or 2 day kind of time frame. If you were sort of more keen to learn more about the design thinking side of it, we have some workshops that we offer as well. Then I think if you're sort of coming to towards a later stage of your study and feeling that you're going into work integrated learning, industry placements, and we offer the pathways for our students to actually participate, intern in a startup or to tackle some of the real life organization challenges. But yeah, all of these information you can find on the RMIT website, RMIT Activator site, and yeah, it will give you lots of different pathways and options to join us. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Eugenia. While I've got you, I've just got one more quick question, and that is how does RMIT Activator support student employability? Will being involved enable me to get a job?
Yeah, so I think the first thing I would say is, I think based on the panel discussion, I think everyone sort of agrees that, having that, the experience, in entrepreneurship and innovation, I think itself is super valuable. I think when you go through like a employment kind of journey, but then also I think at Activator, so we have specific programs that are sort of geared more towards employment. So like I mentioned before, the intern in the startup, and also we have a program called Impact Agency that allows final year RMIT students to actually work on industry client projects. So that will give them sort of great exposure, I think, to actually, working in a real life, professional environment, which can, I think, absolutely lead to employment when they finish the project.
Yeah, thanks, Eugenia. And I think what I love about tonight's session is it's one thing for us to say that we provide all these opportunities and we provide experience for our prospective students that we know industry are looking for. And then here we are tonight, and it's not just us saying it. We've got 3 of our incredible partners saying it with us. So it shows, that we walk the talk, and it kind of gives everyone that exposure to what we're looking for and what we're able to offer our students. So thank you so much for that. I have a question for all of our panelists, our industry panelists. And we've had a question on how do these different organisations work with RMIT. I know Eugenia has talked with how we work with RMIT Activator, but I'd love just to hear from yourselves, actually, how you're involved with and affiliated with RMIT. So we'll go with you first, Darren. If that's okay, we'll go. So how do you work with RMIT?
Yeah, I've worked on a number of levels. So first of all, we've done project work with the workplace industry learning, whereby we took 12 of some of the top design students through a creative process to build a new product in the education sector, where we leveraged, and they were absolutely incredible. Some of the design thinkers, industrial designers, and the communication designers. And so that was a live project that's now live in industry, being delivered at scale. So that was a fantastic experience. They learned a lot. I learned a lot. I work with a lot of the students who are also entrepreneurs with ideas, so helping them bridge intention into action. And we've seen them flourish through a lot of the mentoring that Eugenia mentioned then in the Launch Hub program. And then thirdly, and most importantly, there are pathways through to employment. So some of my best collaborators have been some of the graduates from RMIT Design and Social Context School who've gone on to bigger and better things than us now. And probably will be my clients in the future now. So, I've benefited by that relationship and that exchange of learning. Certainly with the university as a whole, as Bertrand said, it's about network. Our business is across the sustainability, the HR team, the design team, and the brand. And we look to add value across them in the student relationship, but also in providing as many different real world experiences as we can. And I'm not afraid to kind of allow them to, cut their teeth on some real challenges and real problems. So in that sense, we're baked in. There's some fantastic opportunities that way.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And we appreciate all the work that we get to do with the common purpose. So thank you, Darren. We'll go to you, Bertram. So about your affiliation with RMIT.
Well, the first affiliation that I was part of with Appearition and RMIT was for actually one course for the School of Design, where we provided the augmented reality platform for the students for the design students to create, to basically learn to communicate and create AR experiences and use them in a communication. So that was really fun to work with the course facilitators and the students who were sort of the guinea pigs. We pulled the tools together and gave them whatever interactivities and so on, and a UX, user experience, and user interfaces that they needed. So that was fun. Then afterwards we got through to a little bit more channeled with the RMIT Activator. So we took part. We were one of the partners in the Impact Academy, and actually in the course of that, 3 student teams were creating go-to-market strategies for one of our product lines for different target markets. So and given that they were all sort of from the School of Commerce, but from different areas, so it was good to see the teams created a good range, covered a good range of experiences. And they all had their different pace, and it was funny to see that 3 different student groups. One of them was a little bit. Sometimes I was looking at them in the course of it, seeing they're lagging behind compared with the others. But in the end, they all delivered brilliant results, which delivered tangible benefits to us. And now we've got 2 interns as well that actually following up from RMIT. So that's very practically very literal the interactions that we have.
Yeah, thank you for that. And it's great to hear about your interns from RMIT, because that is something that we are very big on, and making sure that we've got work integrated throughout our programs. So thank you very much for that. And Darren, do you mind sharing us with your affiliation and Capgemini?
Sure. I think our relationship with RMIT is sort of twofold. Firstly, RMIT is our strategic digital transformation partner. So many of the systems that the students use to engage and things like that is developed and delivered by us, Capgemini. But the other more important partnership for today's discussion is the industry partnership that we have in place. So we support the university's Ready for Life mission and all of the things that's got to do with the initiative there. We have many RMIT students, graduates who come on to Capgemini and start their IT career with us, and go on to become senior members of our team. We do a lot of we have other kinds of associations where we take part in challenges, CSR initiatives, keynote sessions, panel discussions like this and stuff. But more recently, we've started to have conversations around intelligent industry and how we can shape that together. We're having conversations around online course delivery and how we can sort of participate in that, but also some joint work areas that we're exploring with the Australian government and some of the clients that I can't mention, but we're really exploring joint work with RMIT and students and the graduates and our workforce. So it's getting into a really sort of a good partnership there.
Yeah, we'll have to call you Capgemini RMIT soon. We'll
That's
see.
right.
No, thank you very much. Thank you so much for sharing, all of you. It's been fantastic to have you with us tonight. That's our last question for the evening. So I'd like to thank our amazing panelists, Bertram, Darren and Darren. You have all been incredible. I know I've learned a lot from this session. I feel incredibly inspired and might think about a career change. But thank you for giving us an expert insight into the jobs of tomorrow. We're excited to see where these discussions and ideas lead for our prospective students. And a very big thank you to Eugenia for taking us through RMIT Activator and the exciting work that RMIT Activator is doing to support ventures of the future, and especially connecting us and our students with incredible industry partners. So thank you to everyone who has attended our session today. If you would like to see more of RMIT, or if you want to watch this panel session again and take it all in, we have our Open Day platform that's available till the end of September, where you'll be able to re-watch this information, share it with everyone, your friends, family, cousins, and share with them the golden information that you received tonight. I hope you found this session insightful, and we look forward to unlocking what's next at RMIT with you in the future. So take care and enjoy your evening.
Well done, everyone. That was amazing. That was so good, so informative.